This is a public hearing concerning tax rates of the Clark County Board of Education. I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining us this evening. I'd like to have everyone stand up for a moment of silence. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is adoption of the agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Peridot,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is public hearing. I'll make some comments before we start. If anyone would like to speak, would encourage you to sign in. That way I can call you in order and get the name and everything right if you're willing to speak. If not, we can go from there. Okay, the purpose of this hearing is to receive any comments from the public in regard to setting the 2017-18 tax levy for Clark County Public Schools. The highest tax levy the Board of Education will consider is for real estate, 0.526 cents, building fund, 0.114 cents, and total property tax, 0.64 cents, or 64 cents per hundred. Personal property, general purposes, 0.526 cents, building fund, 0.114 cents, and total property tax levy, 0.64 cents, or 64 cents per hundred. The 2016-17 property tax levy was 0.622 cents on real estate and 0.622 cents on personal property. A motor vehicle tax of 0.535 cents is also proposed. The total certified value of property subject to school tax increased from $2,920,053,266.16 to $2,989,355,600 in 2017-18, an increase of 2.37%. So any person wishing to make an expression should sign the sign-in sheet, which is at the back, now if you've not already done so. Any takers? Okay. We'll wait a few minutes to see if anyone else shows up. Hi, Dr. Bob. Do you want to sign in the speech?
Yeah, let him speak. He looks smart.
No, you're right. I went to the football game.
Trying to. I went last week to Harrison County. I went to Harrison County last week.
any speakers. Motion by Ms. Hicks,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Or we can read the regular meeting at 6:30. But Meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Clark County Board of Education, primary purpose of which is to set the tax rate for the 2017-2018 school year. I'd like to welcome everyone who is here, and let's go ahead and stand and observe a moment of silence. Now pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is adoption of the agenda. Anyone?
We have to adopt the agenda. I move that we adopt the agenda.
First item is 6.
Second.
Second by Mr. Parra. Those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 4-1 with Ms. Hicks, Mr. Parado, Ms. Ritchie, and Dr. Kudak in favor, and Mr. Heisel opposed. Next item is number 2, which is consider discussion of the tax rate hearing and set final tax rate for 2017-2018, and that's fiscal year 2018 for the school district. Okay. Let's see, we have, we discussed, had some preliminary discussion about this at the regular August meeting. We're following our public hearing on tax rates. Didn't have any speakers for that, so I'll entertain discussion about setting the tax rate for 2017-2018 tax year.
I have a question about the, I had requested the item, thank you, Mr. Christie, for sending it. If our current rate is 62.2, how is the 1% increase rate still 62.2?
If you look at the compensating rate first, Ms. Hicks, you'll notice that it's under last year's rate. So if you move up 1%, it equals the same rate. The 1% increase rate equals what the rate was last year, because your starting point is the compensating rate.
Okay, I thought my question was, based on our current rate, what would a 1% increase be?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, a 1% increase would be.
What would the effect of a 1% increase?
What would be the impact of a 1%?
Yes.
Well, the impact would be that if you happen to have the report and you look at page 8, you can see that it's between panel 1 and panel 2. Panel 2 moves it halfway between panels 1 and 3, so that would be a 2% rate. So a 1% rate would basically move you up about, in terms of from my perspective, at least a net revenue, you would be up right around $100,000. You see the difference between panel 1 and panel 2. You'd be real close to, I think, somewhere, I don't have that number in front of me, but I think you'd be probably into making some positive gain on the revenue side.
I think the email you had was 49.
Here's what we sent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is this what?
Report that
Yeah.
we gave,
Okay, we show that a 1% increase, thank you,
which puts us at our current.
which, yes, a 1% increase in the rate, in terms of what it would generate, is about $49,000. In terms of the rate, it would be 62.2 cents, which is the same rate as your fiscal year 2016-17 rate was, in terms of a tax rate. Because the 62.2 cent rate is a 1% increase over the compensating rate.
But what is a 1% increase over the 62.2 cent rate?
Would be a 2%, if we look at panel 2B, it would be a 2% increase, because the
So 62.8 would be.
62.8, and it would generate, in terms of local additional local revenue, about $209,000.
And the reason the percentage tax increase doesn't equal the percentage of money we would actually get is because of SEEK, correct?
Correct.
Is the SEEK adjustment of, it's a, now that we've taken into account through this, the increase in property values, that's a fixed number. So we're not chasing that. That's
No.
that's the, that's simply one adjustment, and then we don't have to chase it anymore. So that's the $106,000 adjustment versus our tentative budget.
Yes, sir, that's correct,
Okay.
and that's related to the assessment
Okay.
change.
So we're not continually chasing that. And then the 62.2, another way of saying that is it's, in the parlance of describing a 4% rate, that's actually a 1% increase. If we stayed at the same rate, we could describe that as being a 1% increase in revenues over the base compensating rate.
Well, your tax rate would increase by 1% in terms of the revenue that's generated. It looks like it would translate into about a 0.31% increase in revenue. Because the tax rate increases 1%, it doesn't necessarily correspond, it doesn't mean there's a corresponding increase in how much that's going to raise 1% additional revenue. The tax rate goes up. For example, in the example, in the report, I used a 4% increase rate, and it's very clear that the rate is a 4% increase rate. But what in terms of generating additional local revenue, that percentage is different. And we can see that in Table F, for example, on page 6. You can see that the 4% increase rate, or the 4% increase rate at 64 cents above last year's rate equates to about a 2.89% increase in revenue. That's what that amounts to. So that would be interpreted. The rate is 4% higher, but it doesn't generate 4% increased revenue. And it's just always a mix. Sometimes that rate can be, even though it's the 4% increase rate, in terms of what it actually generates, is going to vary. And part of that, a big piece of that, is simply you'll notice that I didn't show it as you would collect 100%. And that's just a reality of it. You're not. You're very close at 98.18%. I wouldn't. I keep that rate for sure. I mean, your collection rate's very good from all your local revenue sources. And you sure wouldn't want to trade that, but it's not 100%, and kind of, it's like, what's 1% value of what you raise locally? Well, look at the bottom line in Table E on column 1, for example. We're projecting you're going to raise $20 million, almost $21 million locally. So, 1% of that's about $200,000. So each 1% equals about $200,000. So 2 percentage points, basically, you're not going to collect, from my perspective, about $400,000 of what the rate says you could if you collected 100%. So the higher that rate is, the higher the collection rate is, the better shape you are. But there's still going to be some leakage for a variety of reasons. It's like for example, you have the exonerations rate, recovery rate, which is established because during the course of between January 1 to when the tax reports were approved, probably in late July by the department, through December 31, there's always corrections of errors, there's always adjustments made either by the Department of Revenue or even the local PBA. And so the property values continues to adjust, even though Department of Education basically drives a stake in the ground, says this is the value on X day. And that's what we work from. But those other factors, you could have a major adjustment that could have some impact on what the actual assessed tax bill would be for an entity. I mean, some people, for example, if you had a large number of homestead exemptions, for example, filed all in the calendar year, because even though we know what the assessment is as certified by the Department of Education on the next date, people are still going to continue to go down to the PBA office and file for a homestead exemption through December 31, for example. Or a PSC company, those assessments are all handled at the Department of Revenue, may win a case where they have said they're taking the position their assessments were too high, and the department agrees with them, and so they lower the assessment. You don't always know that, but it translates into what their tax bill is going to look like. And so one of the struggles is always, okay, when we get to the end of the year, how does the collected revenue match against the projected revenue? And sometimes we're a little over, and sometimes we're a little under. And how would you be over? If you're interested, you'd be over because sometimes the Department of Revenue wins. And so it's at the higher assessment rate. Or a piece of property comes onto the tax rolls after the assessment number's been, quote, certified. So it's always, that piece is always a moving target. So that'll impact it some. So Ms. Hicks, I guess I took the long way around the barn to try to answer your question this evening.
I understand.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Other questions or discussion?
I've got some discussion items when it's appropriate. I don't want
Go
to
ahead.
step on anyone else's feet here. Mr. Napier?
Yes.
If you could pull up, I've got some of the same information that I passed out at the last meeting, but I've updated information, first of all, so we could take a look at the tax rate comparison. That'd be the bottom one. I've been trying to monitor through the news feed the changes that have occurred out there for our surrounding districts, and I certainly might have missed some, but it looks like the biggest change that's happened, well, I guess two things. Fayette, their rate of 75, they chose to keep that rate. Scott's rate is 56.4 was their final rate, where they folded in their nickel. And Madison County, they proposed through their advertisement a 4% rate, but ended up taking less than that. So now they have just each passed us. They're at 62.5 in terms of what our competing districts are. The next question is, so that's how we compete on tax rates. And then I wanted to revisit the issue of the pressure that we have on salary schedule comparisons. If you could take a look at that top one, please. I tried to update salary tables changes that I've seen published out there, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. We've gone backwards a little bit because of Madison's rates, but more importantly, Scott County's rates. In green is where our pay rates are the maximum of these particular counties, and that's our surrounding counties. And I'm specifically excluding Fayette County because I've got them over there for comparison on the right, but I'm comparing just among the others. The ones in green are where we're the highest, and you can see they're listed on the side as where the highest district is. If you take just a simple math on rank 3, we still have the highest average rank 3 salary at $45,000. Then we'll flip on to the next page. This should be rank 2. We're still the highest at $52,180. However, on rank 1, the final page, we no longer have the highest rank 1 salaries. We're at $56,652, and Scott County is about $300 higher than that at $56,945. On the final page of this exhibit, I wanted to compare what the average pay rates are to ours. I've got Fayette County in there, and you could see, I mean, they're an obvious outlier with average rates. It's, again, average of all the ranks, all the years, they're $10,000 higher. Scott County is just slightly higher than we are now at an average of $65 higher. And we're ahead in Madison and Jessamine County. These are just simple averages. I tried to do a back of the envelope calculation, which I've noted there is if we wanted to have the highest salaries of all of these particular counties that I've listed, and it's not all the counties in the Commonwealth, of course, and it's not counties farther west like Woodford or Franklin, it would cost us, I think, about $169,000 to have the highest pay rates of any of the counties. And because I can't really take into account what extended days and et cetera would be, I'm just going to ballpark that if we wanted to have the highest rates, it'd probably be somewhere around $200,000, and that's if we selectively went in and tweaked rates just by a little bit. And that's sort of comparison purposes. Now, I don't have a slide on this. I asked Mr. Christie where we're losing teachers, and of course, the biggest loss is Fayette County is where our major loss is. Approximately 19 various certified folks went there, 2 to Scott County, and then 1 each to, there's some far western counties, and we lost 1 to Jessamine County, 1 to Franklin, 1 to Woodford County. So unfortunately, our big challenge is Fayette, but they've got a substantially higher tax rate, and they also have a payroll tax.
And do we know how many of our folks that we lose to Fayette County already live in Fayette County?
I put that on the chart.
I can tell you that.
Did we get that chart?
I sent,
I know we had 16 Winchester residents that took jobs elsewhere, that lived in Winchester but took jobs elsewhere from here.
Did you want to look for that? I don't want to move on without an answer for Mrs. Six's
Well,
question.
if that's a document we
I'm
have,
looking
I can
now.
look it up.
I sent that to Everett, I can't tell from my phone if it's. I sent the tax rate thing, it shows on here, but I can't go back far enough to see when that one was sent.
But it's not one that was posted in the board documents.
No.
Okay.
No, this came up this after, I think thought I sent it this morning.
Do you mind if I move on at this point?
But that's fine.
Okay.
I can find it, I'll forward it to you right now.
Thank you.
So with all that being said, I wanted to again take an attempt to boil down the 16-page document that Dr. Bond presented into something that's a little bit easier for me to understand. Mr. Napier, if you could pull up that last one, please. Here you are. Here's one. So let's start at the top on this one if we could. The original tentative budgeted net income is $366,000, as Mr. Littrell so eloquently captured. This was in the May 25th Winchester Sun, $366,000 surplus anticipated. So that is my starting point. And I know there's been some timing adjustments to the budget, but I really think a fair characterization of those is their timing issues, where things that should have been in last year were moved forward to this year. And so probably it really, those ought to be tied in with what the contingency fund carry forward is. But the tentative budget that we agreed upon back in May was $366,000. And then I believe the cost of the adjustments there, we gave bus drivers a slight adjustment, so that takes $20,000 away. And then as was contained within the documents, the SEEK decrease compared to our budget is $106,000. So the next thing I wanted to try to figure out is to try.
Okay, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
6,000. How does that compare with what is that the same as the state SEEK replacement on this document about the tax rates?
I'll defer to Dr. Bobman. I couldn't read that.
No, what that's referring to is, what did we project you were going to lose in SEEK revenue from last year? So that's what, when I use the term SEEK replacement, part of what, if you're trying to have available to the school district approximately the same number of dollars for fiscal year 2018 that you had in fiscal year 2017, one of the first hurdles that you have to clear is how much did we receive in SEEK funds last year compared to what we're going to receive this year? And in the draft and the tentative budget stages, we talked about the fact that we were anticipating a pretty significant drop in your average daily attendance for fiscal year 17, which provides the basis of funding through the state SEEK formula for fiscal year 2018. And so that dollar figure is at $401,000. So if that is of interest or concern, the board has to determine what their objective is. I put it there simply to show that if you're trying to approximate or even increase total revenue, general fund revenue particularly, but to the school district, then one of the first things you got to do is you got to replace what you're not going to get this year that you got last year from SEEK. Okay? Am I making sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that's what that number represents. So when I then use the term net, it's the difference. Here's what I think we project you would raise in local revenue. We account for the fact we're going to lose, in this case, about $400,000 of state support. So here's your net increase in terms of funding that I'm projecting you would have available, either less, either it's a negative number or it's a positive number, depending on the associated tax rate. Okay?
And hopefully I calculated this correctly, but when I went back to the SEEK that was in the budget versus the final SEEK number that we just recently got, I saw that as a $106,000 decrease. Again, my poll star and my starting point is the budget. So I think again, we started with 366, we take 20,000 away, we take 106,000 away. And then the next question is, those are the takeaways. Now, what's the increase? So the budgeted non-motor vehicle property, because we have to peel that out from the real property and the motor vehicle property, is on page 2 of Dr. Bob's reports, and it's this $2.6 million number here. So that's what I have on that $2,672,000. That is what was the budgeted number, and then because of increases, the final number can be found, unless I mixed these up. Oh, no, here we go. I'm sorry. I should have referred to, when I said A, that is of the January 24th document, and now we've got the August 15th document. So the budgeted number was 2,672, and the final number is 2,711. So we picked up $39,981,000 in value. And walking our way through that, our current tax rate 62.2 cents. We peeled 10 cents off of the building fund, gets us to an effective rate for our general fund at 52.2 times our collection rate, gives us a net rate of 51.25. So you take the 38 million times the 51.25, and so now we're picking up, as an addition to our budget, $199,000 from real property. On motor vehicles, same thing. We budgeted 274 back in January. The final number is 278, so we picked up $3.8 million. That's a 53.5 cent rate, times, take 10 cents away from the building fund, 43.5 net, would pick up $16,000 there. So we roll all those together, the 366,000 starting point, minus 20,000 for the bus driver, minus 106 for SEEK, plus about 200,000 for real property increase, plus 17,000 for motor vehicles, and the new adjusted budgeted number, if we left the rates the same, also as known as a 1% increase, is our budget then would be adjusted to $456,000. Now, if we could scoot down just a little bit more, bringing in, if we said, golly gee, we sure would like to be a little bit more competitive, if we wanted to reach that point of having the highest pay, and that's a nice round number because I think it's going to be approximately $200,000. So if we wanted to set that aside in the next year, we would still have a $250,000 positive budget, and we could stay at the same 62.2 cent rate. So from my vantage point, what I'm going to be advocating for this evening, again, just for me, is to stay at the same rate. I think it strikes a reasonable balance between our needs and the ability of the taxpayers to pay it and for us to remain competitive. And I guess my final comment is probably the elephant in the room that we've all seen during this last week is what's going on with the pension crisis. I think that's something we should be concerned about for the upcoming budget. But because there's so many unknowns about that, I think it would really be premature at this point for us to try to roll that in to our budget based upon what might happen. And the good news is we have a $14 million contingency, so if we get hit with something, I think we'll have a chance to rebound and then adjust the next year. And I appreciate your all kindness in letting me go through that listing. Thank you.
In your plan, what about classified salaries?
Classified salaries I did not address, because from my vantage point, they're very, very difficult to come up with what are comparable, where we are comparably. Like our bus driver example, we're substantially above Montgomery County, but we're below Estill County. And you can pull the data on certified off the KD website, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there's anything out there for certified. For classified, I apologize, for classified.
Okay.
So that would something beyond my ability to estimate. Perhaps the staff could, but I don't know.
Okay. The reason I ask is because we've gone over those salary schedules over and over again for probably, I don't know, for the past year and a half, and classified still stick out to me. I mean, certified, we're at least in the ballpark. Classified, pretty far off in my opinion. So, okay. Other discussion or comments?
Well, of course, as usual, I'll humbly disagree with Mr. Heisel on the need for additional tax revenue. I still believe, I always have, that the greatest asset that we have are great teachers. I think the way that we get great teachers is with great salaries. I don't think we can ever dismiss Fayette County. I think the reason we're so far behind Fayette County at this point is because people didn't step forward 25, 30 years ago and make the increases where they are then, which is why you see Clark County 15th ranked in the per capita income, 95th in the tax rate. So, I know individually you can't go to each one of that, and it hurts people when you do raise taxes that way. But this past year, we lost 61 teachers for various reasons. That's including all different reasons. Basically, I'd say that's about 15% of our staff that we had to replace this past year. The scary part about that is 32 of those were tenured teachers, which more than likely tenured teachers are teachers that principals want to be able to keep at all times. Now, I can't go through each one of these and say that they left solely for a better salary or whatever, but you've got to figure that that's in there somewhere that they believe that they could do better somewhere else. You know, we did have 16 Winchester residents that are no longer with us again. Teachers notoriously do have families that go to school. And I would say if you just averaged out, 16 families with 2 kids, 32 if they all left the district, we're contributing a great deal to our enrollment loss just right here by not keeping people from Winchester and hiring those people as well. Now, I can't say that every one of those were not renewed or what they may have been, but I'm still saying that in some ways we are still contributing. I think I did count that there were 5 Winchester residents that took jobs in Fayette County that I could see right now, Ms. Hicks. I thought just a rough count of that. But if they take their children to a different county, then we're affecting ourselves in the same way. We made an argument the last time about, that we're keeping people from coming to our district because if our tax rates keep going up. But if you do look at the 20-year projections, the counties that have higher tax rates than us, their enrollments are continuing to go up. You can't, the argument that tax rates are keeping people out. Now, they may keep retired people and those kind of people out, but people with children they're not keeping out. Otherwise, nobody would live in Fayette County that had kids. I mean, they wouldn't be there. But if you look at the other people, you look at Woodford, you look at some of those people on that side, Jessamine, those enrollments are going up and their households are remaining the same or up as our households are going down during those entire times right there. So I believe that sometimes as leaders, you got to step forward and say, we got to stop this somewhere. If Fayette County raises 1.5%, I think Clark County needs to look at going 2%. If they don't give a raise, then we need to try to get there again. If not, all we're going to do is continue to go further and further behind. This board has spoken that we could not give a raise to teachers this year. Other districts did. We got further behind this year. If we're looking at doing the same raise we do again, we're not going to be able to give a raise again when we get to the next time. So again, I think, by not doing the full amount, we are drastically affecting the future of education in Clark County.
Okay. Other comments?
I'm looking for an article on the KSBA website. It was this week. I was thinking it was yesterday, but I'm not finding it. A number of districts have been having, the articles from a number of districts that have been doing their tax rates this week, or this month, have been reported. And I believe it was Hardin County, and they have increasing enrollment. But one of the board members stated, we need to live within the means of our constituents. That sort of hit me. They did not raise their tax rates, and they're a growing district. And they had not raised their tax rates in a number of years, and I didn't want to quote something that was not accurate based on what I'm reading, but I don't remember that number of years. So where are we with living in if we think we should live within the means of our constituents?
Well, I think, Ms. Hicks, if I'm not interrupting you, if it's all right to make a comment.
Yes,
I know we were.
yeah, that's fine.
I think you got to look back, on the information that's given. We rank 15th per capita income. We rank 95th is what we do. I mean, that's a statistic that's out there, the 95th in our property tax rate. We could sit and people can call us on the phone, and you guys probably, I got a couple phone calls, didn't want to raise the tax rate. I got 2 or 3 phone calls that wanted to raise the tax rate. So, and I can't speak for you all or how you did, but those are just people that are calling, I think sometimes we do have to look at statistics. And I think that one statistic, and I'm not even gonna say that's a fair statistic, but it's one that glares to me that says that you can't afford more. When you look at these surrounding counties and what their per capita income, I think the next one to us is Madison County, and they were like 30th or something on the list. I don't know, Dr. Bob, if you know more or whatever, I'm not sure. So, we're looking at, a lot of counties, and with Fayette County expanding and growing, and Eastern Kentucky, disintegrating there, people are coming the other way. I think people that have children look for places that have programs that are going to be good for their kids. I just believe that people don't mind paying more for their kids. Now, the average citizen may come in here if there's just two people and say, well, tax rate's too high, I want to go here, I want to go here. But you will pay to make sure your kids have everything that they need. Otherwise, there would be no sense, private schools wouldn't even be around. I mean, people pay to go to a private school because they feel like they get more. People will go to a district if they have children, if they have more. And it's shown, if you look at the projections, the 20-year, I looked at I guess the last one was 2010 was the last one that I saw that I looked over that. And you can look at these counties that have higher tax rates, that have, a lot of things to offer for children. People are going there. There has to be something to that. I look right now at our high school, and we have a very good AP program and those things. You know why we have that? Because we got some teachers. I'm not sure that we've got a program, but we've got some really good teachers. So what happens when that teacher retires? Who's going to come in next? I know we've got one teacher out there that just blows it out of the water, and I know how that teacher got here. I was there when they got here. What happens when the next one may not say, well, why do I want to teach AP in Clark County when I can teach AP in Fayette County and make $10,000 more? Guys, 70 to 80% of our budget is staffing. And for a reason, we've got to get the best people in there. And going back to yours, I guess I got off there a little bit. I don't know how you do it. It hurts me when somebody calls, when an elderly person calls me and says, please don't tax me anymore. I understand that. I understand how that goes. But we have to base it on something. We have to look at this community. Guys, our community, if you look at the whole thing, is not going anywhere. We are, by definition, if you look at everything that happens in Clark County, by definition, we're going backwards every time something comes out. I can remember we had a person in from Ruby Payne on dealing with poverty in schools and stuff, 10 years ago, and they started describing the things that where your community is dying. And if you look at the things that those people said at that time, Clark County is going through every one of them. And you just don't see it. It doesn't happen overnight, but it just keeps happening. It keeps rolling. And after a while, it's not going to make any sense to buy one here because your property values are not going to be worth anything anyway. So I think, we as leaders have to look at those things, and we have to step out and see what our responsibilities are. And do I believe that we can do it? I can't go for every individual and say, yeah, it's not going to hurt every individual. But I can say for my part, and I look what our tax rate at going to the 64 is going to cost me one dinner in Fayette County this year. It's going to cost me about $40. So that's what I look at.
To react to that, I wanted to pull up an article that was on Channel 18, and the summary says that in Central Kentucky, the growth rate of Scott County is more than double that of Fayette County. Scott County's rate is 56.4.
Well, there's some other things in Scott County that makes a difference.
True enough. So I think that's, we're in the mix competing for certainly people going to Fayette, but I think practically we're also in the mix of competing for people going to Scott County. And I don't want to get too far away from that.
Well, I'll look at it this way. You look at Scott County, and they're getting ready to build a new high school too. I'm not sure what the facilities are going to look like, but the first designs I saw seemed excellent. They play football in a college stadium, over there. They've got an excellent gym that they have there. They've got community centers and everything else for kids to go to. That's what I'm saying, is that your community also has to step up and be a part. You know, you have to take care of your kids. If you don't take care of your kids, guys, your future is dead. And we're terrible in Clark County at taking care of our kids. We're horrible. We don't have parks. We don't have centers like that for people to go to. And you go over there and they're enthusiastic about things and they're building things up, and they have Toyota, I know, to draw from. And that's what puts them over the top right there, because they went out as a community and drew that in. And then they've taken care of their future by doing that. You know, I don't think that if you looked at Scott County, and I remember when I was in school and went to Scott County, they had a little old dirt track that you ran around, a football field with rocks all over it, and a little bitty old gym. That's Scott County. I don't care if it stayed at 56, they're not gonna go there. They're gonna go there because of the programs and the advancements that their kids can have. Now, if we can attract Toyota in and go down to 56, I'm all for it too, if our community wants to do it. But I just think that we are slowly keeping ourselves on that eastern Kentucky side, and it's killing us. You know, if you look on there, like where our people went to, 19 went to Fayette County, and you were doing some of the others, you know, there's nobody on that list that went to Menifee. There's nobody on that list that's gone to Powell. There's nobody on that list that's gone to Montgomery County. There's nobody on that list that's gone to Bath County, gone to Estill County. They're not there. They're going the other way. And then we're losing the people that are coming out of Eastern and that are coming out of UK, and they're going there. You know, we had 20 non-renewals this past year. You know, I think non-renewals are a direct reflection of not being able to attract some of the best candidates. I think our high school hired 4 people in the last week, right before school started. You don't get the best candidate all the time at that time. So, I mean, all of those things go into, you know, I think we have got to attract the best people, and I think the only way we can do it is by moving forward with this.
I'll say one thing. I think the only thing we can do here on the school board to try to make our community a better place to live is to make our schools as good as possible. And I think this board has done that. Absolutely, by any measure. So, and it perplexes me why the community is not improved also. You know, I was speaking with someone in Lexington that was looking for a place to live, and you know, Lexington housing market is really hot right now. And, you know, they were like, okay, well, don't just look at zip codes, look at where you're zoned for schools. That's going to determine your property values. And that's one county over, and I don't know why that doesn't apply to us. So,
Well, I think one of the biggest reasons, things that happen in school don't happen overnight. You educate a group of kids first grade through sixth grade, how many years does that take before we get a really good feedback on that? And that's all we can do. I'm not downplaying that. I think that's what we have to do, and I think we've done some really good things, but I think there's a lot of things that we haven't done, and because we haven't done those things, I think that's why you're seeing 32 tenured teachers are leaving our district. Why? If we're that great and we're doing that much for our school district, why are 32 tenured people that have taught for 5 years or longer, leaving our district? We have got to be able to address that. We've got to figure that out.
Surprisingly, Mr. Peridot, a lot of what you say I agree with. That is a challenge that we have. I guess my perspective is we've just got to balance the needs of the retirees and then trying to attract the people here in town. And I think to reflect upon what you said, one of the challenges we have is we're kind of the quality of our school system, which is a testament to the administrators and the teachers and the staff and all of the work that they've done. It's kind of the best kept secret around. We've been working on this document called Why Choose Clark County Schools, and if you go through that, man, in comparison, we've really got a great district. And that's one of the reasons while we talked a while ago, and hopefully it'll be coming out soon, our RFQ for marketing and public relations, because I think that we need to get that story out there. And certainly the more people we can bring in from that, you know, at $5,000 a clip in terms of our SEEK money, it's going to help us out through this effort.
And I agree. And I think, and I think that goes back to staffing. And you guys can correct me if you're wrong, Mr. Christie or Ms. Considine. I heard that our English department, which has been strong at our high school, ACTs and everything, that now, I think the most tenured person in there is like 3 or 4 years in our English department now. And we've had ACT scores that have bumped the national levels. Now, guys, that's a big effect. And those people are leaving. And that becomes a challenge.
Does that include the retired teachers that we have that are working part-time? Because we've got several of those on staff, don't we?
Well,
No, we really don't right now, not yet. I mean, I'm sure they're coming, but, no, we don't include those.
but we'll have retired teachers that'll come in, but, those people you don't put in charge of your department, running your department. Those people come in there to basically give us the assistance, the push forward that we need, because we know they have that kind of experience. But see, those are, again, you're getting back to one-time expenses. After a while, if our budget keeps dying down, we can't afford to put one-time expenses back in. Those are all things in the extra. And believe me, I was here at a time where you didn't get people like that coming in. You didn't have no extra. Whatever you got dealt, that's what went there. There was not such thing as growth teachers. And somebody coming in teaching part-time, somebody coming in teaching a college class, it wasn't that, because we didn't have those people here at that time. And we suffered at that time. And we can go back even further than that. When we really got hit and when we really got down, and when we asked this community to help us, what did they do? They resoundingly turned down, as most districts do, a nickel tax when we needed it right there. So we had to suffer through a part. Now, we talk about future. There's 6 years of kids, where are they going to be in 15 years? Are they going to remember Clark County doing everything for them? I don't know. We have got to do the things today to take care of the things for the future.
But I guess the good news is if we kept the rate the same, we'd have $456,000 available in the budget that we could start addressing that with.
We had some of that this year we could have addressed it with.
Well, I guess we still can.
But you lost 32 teachers in the process. You can't do that every year.
How many do we generally lose?
We usually hire 40 to 50, something like that. We do some non-renews, and then lots of times those are brought back, and I'm
We
just
have
gonna
to do the
tell you,
non-renews.
Retirement.
we've had a terrible time. There's some hard to fill areas, math, science, special ed. We've had to take what we can get.
Like one applicant.
I mean, like one applicant, and like right up till school, and some people left us right before school started.
Right before school started.
Some of our people that we've invested training money in.
And why do we release their contracts? Why do we release their contracts?
You gotta keep somebody here that, you're gonna keep somebody away from wanting to move, where they can make more money better themselves. And I'm gonna tell them, no, you can't do that, you're gonna stay and work in Clark County. It's. what kind of-
I understand that, but, if it puts us in
Well,
a
no.
greater bind,
Well, it's very difficult to tell someone that's.
Oh, yeah, I
And
understand
then
that.
you worry, my concern, and I'm sure everybody's obvious, would be that the best foot would not move forward. We're just not getting the applicants.
I was trying to compare, on August 1st, we had a meeting talking about options on raises, and the 1% raise at that time was calculated, it'd be $273, so we could do the 1% raise, and a 2% raise would be $546, so based upon that document, we could do something bumping up close to a 2% raise and still keep the 62-cent rate, 62.2-cent rate.
But see,
Does
we're,
that-
go ahead.
And
Does that calculation take into consideration our discussion about the restructuring of our salary schedules that we started, knowing that it would not be a one-time thing, but that we started last May?
That's taken into consideration everything that we've done up to this point. Any changes in the steps, anything that's taken,
But the calculations here, is that across the board rather than within steps?
I
The one that
believe
you're
it,
looking at?
these are across the board.
Those are across the
Okay.
board.
But again, I get back, see, you know, you're behind the eight ball when you do this. When you don't do it before teachers start filling out their resumes and going somewhere else, you've lost that group of teachers.
we've already
And
lost.
so then if we go here, if we give, let's say here in October, we give another 2% raise, that's great, I don't have anything against that. But then when we go back around and we get to May and we don't do it again, then maybe we lose that group. And, you know, we talk about the pension thing, you've got a lot of teachers doing a lot of talking that are not very satisfied about different things, and, you know, piling things upon them is not going to help them any at all. I think we missed a great opportunity for raises in the spring. I think we missed it again in the summer, and I'm afraid if we don't consider our tax rate, we're gonna miss it again next spring.
Okay. I actually have a question for Mr. Christie, which bears on this somewhat. What is the current fifth day attendance versus last year?
We were about, we're gonna have we have two growth teachers at Campbell. And we're gonna have to probably pick up a couple of growth teachers in the special ed department.
Okay.
Those numbers have really grown.
Okay, but overall, where are we? Do you have any idea where we are versus last year?
I don't have that exact number. I think we're within 21 students of what we projected. Right now, I think we're on the fifth day, we were 21 students under what we projected.
And we
That
still
number
have-
still continue to come up. I'm sorry.
And we still have the two growth teachers.
Yep, and when you start to look, if you have some of the schools where it's close, if you take a teacher out, then you throw them over cap.
Right.
So
But you may have some teachers that have some light classrooms also, so, because I know the kindergarten numbers are still pretty far down from what they usually are.
and
so.
we've moved some kindergarten teachers into some of the other grades in the primary grades and done some things there. Our kindergarten class, I think part of it's the change in the age
Yeah.
thing. I think that's hit us some this time, so that's part of what we're seeing. If the kindergarten numbers were where they normally were, we would have grown.
So where did the special ed enrollment, did we not see that coming?
Now, we've got in the buildings right now where they're already over their cap or at or above their cap number of students they can have on their caseload, and we've got 15 to 20 kids waiting to be tested. That if they test in, that's going to increase those cap load, those even further.
That hasn't been an issue before.
Not to the extent that it is now. Nope.
What percent of our teachers are eligible for retirement if the changes in retirement do take place in January?
Well, across the state, it's 15 to 20%, so I would imagine that we're somewhere in that. I don't know that, I can go into pool and see, and actually look at, we could probably pull it and see, but I don't have an exact number.
Well, I gotta tell you, since the House of Representatives has to run every 2 years, I think they're gonna tread very, very carefully on that, because there's a lot of teachers that vote. But I don't know what, of course, I have no idea what they're gonna do.
Okay. Now, I brought that up because that's, average daily attendance is a major factor for the C calculation, so that's where we get half of our money from. So, or maybe a
Make
little bit less
note
now.
of what that is now. That number of 21 on the fifth day is what we were 21 under what we calculated or estimated, but that number the next day had gone up another 2 or 3, so, see where we are. I'll try to send you an email.
Yeah, the trend has been we start low and then tend to gain as the year goes on. So,
But it didn't, the enrollment didn't stop after 5 days. They're still continuing.
there's still
to
kids
grow.
coming in, so. Okay, any other discussion? Anybody like to offer a motion?
Yeah, I'll move for approval of the following tax levy for $100 of assessed value for 2017-18. Real estate, 64 cents. Personal property, 64 cents. And motor vehicles, 53.5 cents. And I guess I should include exonerations also in that. That should be part of that.
All right, motion on the table, Mr. Carroll, is there a second? Anyone? Going once, going twice? All right, motion fails for lack of a second. I would like to offer a motion for the midpoint rate on Dr. Bob's summary on page 9. That's midway between the compensating rate and the 4% rate. That would be 62.8 for real estate, 62.8 for personal property, and 53.5 for motor vehicles. That would be projected to give us another $209,305 in recurring revenue.
Second.
So motion is by Dr. Kudak, second is by Ms. Hicks. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Anybody else? All right. So motion fails 2-3 with Dr. Kudak and Ms. Hicks in favor, and Ms. Ritchie, Ms. Peridot.
Did you take the no vote?
I'm sorry.
Did you ask for the no vote?
Oh, all those opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Opposed?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so motion fails 2-3 with Dr. Kudak and Ms. Hicks in favor, and Ms. Ritchie, Mr. Peridot, and Mr. Heisel opposed.
I would like to make a motion. I'd like to move for approval of the following tax levy per $100 of assessed value for 2017, 2018. Real estate, 62.2 cents. Personal property, 62.2 cents. Motor vehicles, 53.5 cents. And these rates would include, inclusive of exoneration. So exonerations would not be on top of those rates.
All right, motion by Mr. Heisel, is there a second? I just want everybody that if we can't agree on a tax rate tonight, we go back to the compensating rate by default, which is going to cost the district $110,097 in recurring revenue next year.
I second the Heisel motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I guess it's time to me to break the tie, huh? Do we have recess? No. I'll vote yes. So it's 3-2. So it's Dr. Kudak, Ms. Hicks, Mr. Heisel in favor, Ms. Ritchie, and Mr. Peridot opposed. Did I get that right? Okay. Okay. So the tax rates for this year are 62.2 for $62.2 for real estate, 62.2 for personal property, and 53.5 for motor vehicles. All right, next item on the agenda is consider approval of revised preschool principal job description. Ms. Ryan.
This is pretty much just a housekeeping thing. Prior to this job description, it was an early childhood coordinator, and we decided that, our last person in charge of the preschool was a principal, and we feel like that the person ought to be a principal. The coordinator could not evaluate the teachers, You have to be a principal to do that. So we're changing the title to principal and requiring the principalship. That comes along with that the principal would report to the superintendent rather than the director is fed, because principals report to the superintendent.
Do we have a copy of the job description?
It was uploaded to your board documents. I uploaded it.
I missed it.
It was posted. You want to look at mine?
Yes, please.
There's not much change other than just the names of the name of the description. It already had the number of days and all that are not changing. They already have changed last year.
So does this replace, is this the?
It's to replace it.
So are we abolishing the positions that had the other titles?
The only position, go ahead.
What other positions have the other titles?
Okay, don't we have preschool coordinator and preschool director?
We have early childhood coordinator. That's all we have.
We don't have an early childhood director?
Not to my knowledge. EPSB required a coordinator endorsement on that. Basically, it's a fee you pay to be a coordinator.
Okay, but do,
What's the question? I don't understand the question.
okay, on our list of job titles, at one point, there were multiple,
There's not now. I mean, if there
Okay,
are,
did-
it's
did the
totally.
board abolish
Yes, we would
those?
never, in my tenure, we've never taken anything off that the board did not approve. We
okay,
don't just delete job descriptions. We bring it to you for, if we change anything on a job description, it's brought to you all.
okay, so there is not a job title.
If there's
Oh.
one on there, it's a mistake. It's not anything we're using. It would be just something we failed to remove that we were supposed to remove, but not anything that can be used.
And the position of this one is, as it's listed, as it was listed before, it was listed as the early childhood coordinator.
There's the, that were uploaded.
We're just changing the title and requiring the principalship, and it doesn't change any of the indexes, anything that's in place for it at all. All we're doing is changing the title so that we can require a principalship, so that they'll be able to do evaluations in that building of their teachers.
I'll make sure I understood what you just said, Greg. There's no pay rate change.
No.
No.
And the person needs to be a principal to be able to supervise the K-tips in the building.
So the most recent individual in that position could not do,
They had the
He had a
principalship.
principalship.
They had a
that.
principalship, and they were able to do the evaluations,
Okay.
but he was still going under the job description of an early childhood coordinator, which carried the same index and the same thing that this job does. So there is no change in the pay rate whatsoever, anything. It's just the title and the requirement of having the principalship.
This is nothing sneaky. This is strictly changing the name to principal, requiring a principalship, and it makes it much more smooth for the district because someone from central office had to evaluate those staff before we had our last principal.
Someone from central office had to
Yes,
take care of the
I recall
K-tips and all those kinds of things.
And we just got lucky enough that we got a person in the position that had his principalship, so he could do the evaluations.
and so there is no recommendation then for the board to abolish that position title that's still in?
Certainly, I can bring that if you'd like to do that.
I mean, I would prefer,
My intention was that that tonight, by adopting this, you're changing that position.
Because that's what
That job description now is going to say class title is going to be preschool
okay,
principal.
but with your EPSB or whatever the initials are, will the job title of early childhood coordinator or early childhood, whatever the current position is that this is allegedly replacing, how will that job title still exist?
No,
in the-
because I asked you to consider the revisions of that job description. So if you revise a job description, it's no longer the same as it was. Now it says principal, it doesn't say coordinator on it. So that one will go away because this is the new one. This is that job description revised.
Okay, I'm not making, I guess I'm not asking my question correctly.
No,
Where do
this-
your job titles come from?
From the district.
From the district.
We determine our job titles. Yes, do we have a category that we work with the standards board, but there, a
Okay,
principal
that-
exists.
Okay,
in
is the standards board still going to have the job title that we are not going to have?
They'll have that job title because
Yeah,
there are
that'd be
other
good.
preschools in the state that don't require principalships.
Okay.
Yes, so you'll see a preschool coordinator will always be listed in the standards board because the standards board is for the whole state.
Yes, yes, I
So when you
understand
have the
that.
drop-down box, it will be listed.
Yes.
It's just that our district requirement is going to require above and beyond a coordinator.
We want ours to have a
Yes,
principalship.
yes.
So.
I understand that. I don't want to see us get caught in a situation of somewhere down the road, someone coming up and saying, oh, we still have that description, we just don't have anybody
We're
in
not gonna
it.
we're not gonna do that.
Well, this may be beyond our time,
Right.
your time,
What you're
anybody's
saying is if you
time.
abolish the position, it is, the job description, it no longer exists. That's what you're saying.
But if we're just replacing a job title,
Right.
does it abolish
Abolish
the
the
previous
previous
position?
Yes,
That is
ma'am.
my question.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
And
The
it
district,
does.
it does, yes.
But in terms of authorizing a pay level, I think the salary tables we agreed upon back in the spring where we changed that position
We
from a
already said it was
coordinator
already based
to
on a
principal,
So
then
we're
we,
just housekeeping.
and we don't have the coordinator position on there
We do
anymore.
not.
So we could have a coordinator, but we couldn't pay them anything, so they probably wouldn't stay long.
But they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would
that's
really be a
right.
problem.
The
Okay.
coordinator
'cause-
doesn't exist on the
Right.
palette, on this
Okay.
salary
We're just-
schedule.
Yeah. So I think that sort of clarifies it, is what authorizes the pay for these people is the salary schedule. We could have someone in the position, but again, with no pay, they wouldn't stay long. Okay. This is the controlling thing right here.
I know where you're going with it, I understand what you're saying, but this will be deleted from our job descriptions.
But does
Once
that
the board
abolish the
approves.
position?
Well,
But-
we've had plenty of job descriptions we've changed over the years.
But did it abolish the position?
Well, it did in my book. Now, I don't know what happened
Does that
6
make
years
sense to you?
before I got here, but I take them out.
It's just housekeeping, just making sure you got a principal in here.
It's just housekeeping. We don't want someone running the preschool that doesn't have their principalship.
I agree 100% that
So
the
what-
head of the preschool needs to be a principal who can do evaluations. I don't have a problem at all with that.
So what would you like, how would you want me to word it, and I'll word it to make you feel comfortable that I'm,
Well,
the right
some
things.
other folks want to get to a ball game, I'm hearing, so,
Well, I can promise you that it will be abolished from our list of job descriptions. Coordinator, the coordinator position's going away.
okay. And we don't have an early childhood director position.
If we do, it's going away too, but I don't think we do. But it's on, they're posted online. I mean, I'm not gonna say there isn't a mistake that someone might have left something, but there certainly isn't one on the salary schedule. And you would have to approve a salary schedule if we changed it. I know what you're saying.
I see where Ms. Hicks is coming from. We have a tendency to add positions and not take them away. So,
I have never done that. If we add a position, if you read the agenda, it says approval of revision.
right.
So that in itself states that the other one's
It's
gone.
gone.
Gotcha.
It's just like a revised policy. We never
Right.
see the old policies, they're
Right,
gone.
they go.
We take them out, throw them away.
Revision means change.
When's the last time we abolished anything?
All right. Any other discussion?
Haven't.
All right. Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to consider approval of the revised preschool principal job description as presented by Ms. Ryan.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Paradox,
I'll second it then.
All right, second by Mr. Heisel. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
All right, motion carries 3-2 with Mr. Parado, Mr. Heisel, Dr. Kunek in favor, Ms. Ritchie, and Ms. Hicks opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see if we can get a 5-0 motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I should vote no. I told my wife not to eat without me, so I feel like we're doing everything. I'll vote yes. So motion carries 5-0. Or it is adjourned at 7:44 p.m.